New information from Star Wars News.net may point to us getting a new Star Wars trilogy that begins filming this fall.
Don't get too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
I don't think there's any crazy spoilers in this video. I do mention Rian Johnson, and I know that's a trigger for certain people, so if his name triggers you, I guess don't watch this video. And I'm not saying that in a mean way, because I don't like Rian Johnson either. I'm just saying, you know, those people that absolutely have mental breakdowns. I don't want to ruin your day. So David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, best known as the showrunners for one of the most popular and successful TV series, Game of Thrones, were given their own Star Wars movie series a while back. Their Star Wars deal has been one of the few consistent Star Wars projects to be listed as a go-ahead, as rumors have been, I'd say, fairly constant about other people's projects being cancelled. We learned earlier from an interview with Casey Bloys, HBO's programming president, that D&D were in fact given a trilogy, as before that, a film series could have meant anything between 2 and 5+ films. According to Casey, after they completely finish up with the last season of Game of Thrones, which premieres next month and ends in May, they are going to work on Star Wars, which pushes back their other show, Confederate, which they are delaying so D&D can work on Star Wars. Casey even touched on this, saying, "It's hard to say to someone, you can't go do Star Wars. They love it. It's a childhood dream. They'll go do that, remember why they love television, and come back." I will say this over and over again, I love that two people whose childhood dream it was to work on a Star Wars movie have control of this project. And the fact that they're willing to put aside other projects to work on this trilogy is so comforting, but I'll move on. We then heard rumors that due to The Last Jedi backlash and Solo not doing well, Rian Johnson's trilogy would now come after David and DB's, or at least Rian's first film in his trilogy will come after D&D begin their series. It could be from the backlash or simply that D&D got their shit together faster. Those guys were super excited about starting their Star Wars films. But now, because of Star Wars News.net, we may have even more information about their trilogy, and I'm so happy. I'm really crossing my fingers that this all turns out to be true. So Star Wars News.net revealed that a contact who works on every Disney Star Wars film shared interesting information with them. They said their contact told them that the next Star Wars film could begin filming this fall, and will be the first film in a series of films by David and DB. This timeline could make sense as D&D were said to be working on their Star Wars films as soon as Game of Thrones ended. Game of Thrones is over in a few months, which frees them to begin filming in the fall, though that does seem a tad rushed, especially since there was talk about how D&D didn't even want to think about a story for their Star Wars deal until Game of Thrones was over. So now they're going to go to filming 4 months after Game of Thrones? Seems a tad quick, but hey, maybe after filming ended for Game of Thrones a few months ago, they began writing their script while the rest of their team worked on editing the final season of Game of Thrones. Interestingly, Star Wars News.net addresses this, sharing what their contact said. "Filming starts in the fall, and art departments are in design phases now as the script is being finalized. That is all I know, but I am 95% confident that this is accurate." This makes me think, despite what others have said, and even D&D themselves, that they wanted to wait until Game of Thrones was completely done in order to start focusing on their Star Wars project, that actually isn't true. I mean, they did kind of rush Game of Thrones to be finished so they could move on to other projects, which I'm not blaming them. Star Wars was a childhood dream for them, and also, you know, that mad Star Wars money. Yo. What makes this reveal more fun is that we were told when their films will be set. Star Wars News.net said the contact shared, approached about working on the next movie this autumn. It is not the Rian Johnson trilogy. It is the Game of Thrones guy's first movie, and it is set during the Old Republic, as Disney wants to open up the Star Wars timeline and appeal to a more Game of Thrones style audience. So the timeline is hundreds of years prior to the Skywalkers, so think almost Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings. I really believe this part the most. We've heard a lot of companies saying similar things, a lot of people in charge saying that they're trying to find the next Game of Thrones. Amazon is hoping Lord of the Rings will do it, and then we have a ton of other series that networks are crossing their fingers will explode like Game of Thrones did. As for the time period, the Old Republic was thousands of years before the prequels and saw a lot of crazy shit go down, including issues with the Sith and Mandalorians. The Jedi-Sith conflicts were insane during this time, and I'd love to see them. I want to see Sith gangbangs. Really, I like this idea, and I think it's amazing, and I think this is something a lot of people were hoping for. I had sorta hoped if Rian Johnson's films get made, they'd put him far away from the current Star Wars trilogy's timeline, but I guess they can still have him do something else, or still be during the Old Republic timeline because that covers a shit ton of years. I just don't want D&D making this awesome Old Republic trilogy and then Rian getting in there and getting too close to when theirs is set and fucking everything up just to subvert us. And that honestly isn't a Rian bash. I'm honestly just over the guy. He can do whatever he wants. Just stay away from the main timeline we've been in for the movies so far. I'm just genuinely worried that he will take something the Trilogy D&D are making during that time period and then fuck with it somehow just to subvert it in some way. And I know the Old Republic covers a lot of time, so maybe he could be over here hundreds of years doing something else, but I just worry. Rian can subvert the shit out of things, I just don't want it to be at the expense of other people's work. As for the Lord of the Rings feel bit, I don't think we're regressing to swords and such, so don't be worried about that. We'll still have lightsabers, blasters, and other tech. I just think they're more talking about the massive feel to it. With the Game of Thrones feel, I think they're talking about a lot more political intrigue, but not prequel politics, but more the political interesting bits that we had in Game of Thrones. You can make politics interesting. I think that's where they're going with it. However, how do you feel about D&D making a Star Wars trilogy that takes place during the time of the Old Republic? It's kind of exciting for me because I know they have a lot of material to draw from, and I'm interested what they will mash together for their trilogy. Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe for more Star Wars videos.